staff, we'll start the meeting. Kathy, you ready to go? Okay, very good. Then we will call the meeting of the Yelm City Council of December 14th, 2021 to order in our usual fashion by saluting our nation's flag. Please join me, finding a flag near you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the clerk take the roll, please?
Councilmember James Blair,
Here.
Councilmember Joshua Crossman,
Here.
Councilmember Holly Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Tracy Wood,
Here.
Councilmember Joe DePinto,
Here.
Councilmember Terry Kaminsky,
Here.
Mayor J.W. Foster.
Here. Very good, thank you. Your question, Josh, still hasn't come up yet. You'll take care of that when we do number 5. But otherwise, can I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Tracy Wood, I move we approve tonight's agenda.
Second, Holly Smith.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We will move on to special presentations. I do want to just mention to folks who are watching at home is that we are a totally Zoomed council meeting tonight. The mayor is in council chambers for our special presentation, and then we'll actually go to a different location to continue the meeting. All the other council members and staff are present by Zoom this evening. And so we get to one of our favorite moments in our meetings, and that is to celebrate one of our awesome students. As you know, the Rotary Club of Yelm and Yelm Community Schools, the City of Yelm, and some business partners in Yelm get together to honor one of our more outstanding students every month, and then one at the end of the year. Hard to choose, but there's a committee that does this upon nominations from the different teachers. And this month, for November, they selected Molly Korak. Molly, could you take the witness stand, please? Not the witness stand, dais. So Molly truly does it all. She's excelling at Running Start, is committed to her education and experience in the Yelm High School Sports Medicine program, dominates on the volleyball court, and makes time to volunteer for her school and community. As an all-student body officer, she's reigniting school spirit coming off an exceptionally challenging past 2 years, where trying to pull the student body back together is anything but easy. She also advocates for our Washington CTE program, Career and Technical Education program with state legislators, is a leader in the sports medicine program, and also serves as a National Honor Society officer. This extremely busy young woman is also amazingly kind and caring. Yelm High School and the Yelm community is so lucky to call her our own. Please join us in congratulating Molly on being Student of the Month for November 2021. This is where we do a virtual round of applause. And just so you know, folks, Molly came to us. She goes from school to the training room through the sports medicine program. And then she goes over to the Boys and Girls Club where she works. And now she's squeezing in a meeting with us. And now what's after this?
Probably just going home and then working on the CTSO stuff.
And every third day she sleeps for a few hours. Congratulations, Molly. I want to see if we can get this on where everybody can see us here. Let's see where the camera is there. I want to look up at the camera up there at the ceiling. And it'll take a while for me to show up eventually because of the streaming, but there I am. So look up there and smile. And Congratulations, here's your plaque.
Thank you.
And you also already got some stuff from Rotary.
Yes.
Yeah, so you got quite a little
Yeah.
package of congratulatory things.
Yeah.
So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. Oh, and also I was talking to my boss, Andrew, and we also just wanted to thank you and all of City Council for giving us the other half of that building, because all the kids at the Boys and Girls Club just love it, and it's so nice having that new space, and it's just opened a lot of really cool new opportunities for clubs. So
Yeah,
it's awesome.
it's been a great partnership with Boys and
Yeah.
Girls Club. So thank you for bringing that message to us.
Yeah, it's been great. The kids love it, and we love it too, because it allows us to do like more fun things with them. So
Excellent. Well, usually I tease the student of the month and ask them to sing the school song, but you already trumped everybody else with that dissertation. So thanks, Molly. Thanks, John, for raising a great kid.
Thank you.
We'll see y'all later on.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Molly.
Thank you.
Thanks, City Council.
Thank you, everybody. I don't know. We'll see.
Pretty good.
Thank you again. Happy holidays.
Thank you. That's so awesome. Okay, put this back down and bring up the agenda. We now have an opportunity for public comment. We don't have anybody in the audience here in chambers, but let me minimize this and go to our attendees. I see a hand up. Brian Hess has your hand up to speak. And so go ahead, the floor is yours, Brian.
Yes, Mayor and council members, looking at the agenda, and I apologize. I'm not sure if during the consent agenda portion, if you will be doing public testimony or not, but I have a question to ask in reference to the Yelm Chamber of Commerce 2021 contract. I've followed the meetings as best I could this year, and I don't recall seeing it being discussed, but I'm looking at what the partnership agreement is, and I'm just wondering, I just would like to advise that please make sure that when you're about to spend the $4,000+ that we're making a good judgment call in reference to that. Because for membership to the Yelm Chamber of Commerce, the most expensive one is $1,000, and it's almost the same thing that you get for what we're paying $4,000 for. And yet we should be in partner with the chamber, whether there's payment or not, because the city and the chamber should be having the same goals. Those same goals are to bring in businesses to help our community by having diversity of economic platforms to help raise within the community, to provide jobs within the community, as well as to help make sure that those. So that's the only
Recording
thing
in
I would
progress.
like to have is that when you guys have your discussion about that, if there's going to be a discussion, just be aware of that. You're paying almost 4 times as much as what the highest price is, and yet you're getting the same things. And that is something that from last week's study session, you were questioning $10,000 for somebody to help write grants. And this is $4,000. It's almost the same amount of money when you're considering a percentage of the revenue that the city takes in. I appreciate your time and thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time to attend the meeting and provide that opinion on that item. And actually, it will come up for some discussion this evening. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council? I see Bill McGregor, Port Commissioner. Welcome, Bill.
Can you hear me, Mayor?
We can hear you.
Great, good. Well, I'm glad you giving me the same benefit as you had last night, and that you don't have to look at me tonight. But I do have something I would like to say if I could. And I would like to just acknowledge that Mayor Foster has been a real inspiration to me, and he's had a life of service. And he has served as a Marine, he's a U.S. veteran, a first responder, a Yelm councilman, and now as Yelm member. Are we okay?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry, I thought I heard something. So you have served your country, your county and your Yelm community in a very inspirational and distinguished time that you've done this, JW. And I call you JW because I consider you a friend. You have tirelessly served on many county-wide committees and most recently as the chair of the Thurston Regional Planning Council. You've done an admirable job with that. And it has been an honor to know you. And from the cleanup of roads leading to Yelm to, well, you name it, you have been there. When I hear slogans such as all roads lead to Yelm or pride of the prairie, I think of you, JW. You have been an inspiration and mentor for me, and I thank you during my time of the Port Commission. If there was an event happening in Yelm, you were there. Thank you for your leadership and the distinguished way in which you have shown the people of Yelm how to be a politician, a true politician. You have a love for your community that shines bright and far and is recognized by those you have touched through this political career. All I can offer you is thank you, JW, for all you have done. And I look forward to seeing what the next chapter of your life brings, enjoying those grandkids and participating, I'm sure, in other activities that bring pride to Yelm. Thank you for your terms of service.
Thank you, Bill, very much. You know, usually we limit these to 3 minutes, but keep going. That's fine. No, hey, just back at you, Bill. As I attended the port meeting last night, the same thing. The relationship that we have had with our port commissioners, no matter which district they actually served, all 3 port commissioners took a great interest in Yelm, and that's how we get things done. So thank you again for your years of service, and we'll see you at Rotary, I'm sure. Thank you. So I don't see any other hands up from the attendees, so we will close the public comment period. And that gets us on to the consent agenda. Josh, did you have something you would like to say?
Yes, I would like to move the 2 contracts into regular agenda so we can have a little discussion on those.
There's a motion to move the 2 contract items that were on the consent agenda off the consent agenda for further discussion. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Blair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to that? Okay, then we will. There's still just the study session minutes that are left on the consent agenda, so that if we could approve those, then we could move on to discuss the contracts, and we will open those up as sub items of new business. So a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is just the study session minutes at this point.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second. Oh,
Seconded by
second, Holly
Councilmember
Smith.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Minutes approved. Very good. That takes us on to new business. And before we go into the agenda items, we'll go ahead and start talking about the consent agenda items B and C. We'll start with the Chamber of Commerce contract. Josh, did you have some questions or concerns about that?
Yes, so to echo what Brian's thoughts were on that, I have 2 hats. I'm a chamber member and a big fan of the chamber promoter. I'm also got to watch taxpayers' money. And so looking at that contract, I don't see the benefit why the city needs to be involved and money-wise with that. You know, being the list that it was given in the contract, the benefits of being a chamber member for the city, in my opinion, just doesn't justify that cost. So maybe somebody can help me justify that a little better if they can.
Sorry about that, folks. I had to do it. trying to do a little something here technically. And I tell you what, can everybody just pause for a second? I'm going to.
I'm assuming he's saying he's moving to a different office.
That's what I got out of it.
We need the Jeopardy song going right now. Too much silence.
Okay, thank you for that. My apologies, we had to move me out of the chamber so we could quit getting that echo effect. Last I heard, Josh, you had raised some concern about the contract. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Okay, so what you have before, Councilmember Blair, go ahead.
I'm just looking it over, and I mean, as Josh said, I like the chamber, and we've actually been able to be a part of it this last year. It was my first kind of experience with all this. They do a lot of good work. I'm not quite understanding why the city is joining. I mean, a lot of the benefits I'm seeing it's advertising, and I'm not quite sure what we're advertising. And maybe I miss a lot. I mean, outside of that, it's the 1-minute presentation at each meeting each month and the 30-minute state of the city forum. And both of those, I would assume that the chamber would want those to happen regardless of the city having a membership or not. So more so, I'm just curious what it is that we're with this advertising stuff on here. What is it the city uses that for? Like if we're using that and it's getting the message out on certain things, then maybe that could be worth it. But I don't really know what exactly is happening on the city's end with all of this.
Okay, we do have Lynn Roy here from the chamber. I'll ask the council members to ask their questions, and then we'll have Lynn address them as she can, and perhaps Michael Graham. We'll go with Councilmember Smith first.
Yeah, I was just curious what the history has been. Have we done this historically? I guess that was my question.
Yes, we have. We've had a contract with the chamber for many years.
Okay.
And it's already approved in the budget. That's why it was on the consent agenda, because it's within the signing authority of the mayor and the city administrator. Councilmember Kaminsky?
I was just going to say, could you please refresh us on the history? Because I thought it was more of a partnership agreement versus just a membership agreement.
It is exactly that. The membership comes with the partnership, and what we have taken in the past, and since you've asked me the question, the past consideration has been that the chamber does things that the city of Yelm doesn't have the capacity to do by itself to promote local businesses. And we all know by many statements made by all the council members that promoting our local businesses supports our economy. The economy supports the services of Yelm. So it's been a beneficial mutual relationship between the city and the chamber for a great number of years. I would like to invite Lynn Roy to speak. I'm going to bring her up. And Lynn, I've just brought you into the panel. Could you address some of the questions that the council has?
Yes, certainly. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Yes, so I can kind of address a couple things here. Holly, you had asked historically what the what the history on this contract has been. This has been something that has been in place since I came on as the executive director. When I came on, it was actually, the contract was much larger for what I felt was a much smaller return on investment for the city. So in kind of retooling that partnership and that contract, I feel like we have increased exponentially your benefits while decreasing that cost by nearly half. Some of the advertising that we partner with the city on is especially in event sponsorship. So events that are put on in our community, if the city wants, it can be a sponsor on that event, so that it's not just the chamber that's putting it on, or it's not just the Jazz in the Park that's putting it on, or it's not just the Lions Club, or for the different events. It is a city event, which looks great for the city. It looks like the city is caring about its community and wants it to grow and thrive. The other thing that was brought up was, it's the same benefits as the $1,000 membership that any business can come onto, and that's not quite true. There's about an additional $3,500 in just monthly advertising that comes with that. That's outside of any event sponsorship that's included. Are there any more questions that I didn't catch as we chatted? Please, not everyone at once.
Can't hear you. No, JW.
I'm muted. I see a hand up from Councilmember-elect Hess. Go ahead, Brian.
Yes, okay, I appreciate Ms. Roy explaining the benefits. I do have a question then, now that she's on. The sign that advertisement gets to be done on, that sits on city property, if I remember correct. I have driven by there multiple times, seeing Public Works doing the work around that sign. So my question now is, again, if I failed to miss this during a meeting when it was being discussed budget-wise, who pays the electric bill for that sign? And is the city being reimbursed for taking care of that property that the sign sits on? I mean, $3,500 of advertisement for the city. You're advertising to other chamber members, which are in the city. And for those that are not in the city, then, are we putting out, is the chamber advertising in Seattle to small businesses saying, hey, come down to Yelm? I'm just trying to figure out where this advertising is going on, that the so-called $3,500 additional advertising that she mentioned.
We pay the electricity on the sign. It is on city property. That was an agreement that was made when the sign was erected. I was not a part of that discussion. Your other question, yes, we do advertise locally, regionally, statewide, and in the Northwest corridor.
Okay, Councilmember Kaminsky, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, from my point of view, in the big picture, looking holistically at everything, when I first joined council 4 years ago, I kind of recall there was always these groups. There was the central business district group, there was the chamber group, there was a city, and there was no continuity at all between the groups. And everybody was kind of bumping heads and overlapping territory. And then I was also on the chamber board. And in those years and until now, I have seen a dramatic difference in the relationships that we form, in the cooperation between nonprofits and the city, in the events that we've held. There's just been a continuity and a synergy that I think is so valuable. I would not want to change that at all. And so I think our relationship with the chamber should be maintained.
Okay, Councilmember Blair, then Councilmember DePino.
So I think the better way to describe this is more of the city's sponsorship of the chamber. So it's $4,250. It's not a small amount of money, but in the grand scope of what we deal with, it's not a giant amount of money either. I think the return on investment part is more to do with all of the events and bringing people into town and helping build up businesses here in town, and all of that correlates into additional tax revenue. I think by calling it a membership and then expecting our specific services or benefits from the membership is where I think we're probably getting hung up. So for all intents purposes, we're sponsoring the local chambers, pretty much what this is. And like Terry just said, even in my short time here, I've seen a lot of difference in just how people are interacting with each other on that end. I don't think, and I remember when I first came in here, I was pretty hardcore of, I don't think we should be giving any money to the chamber. And there's parts of me that still feel that way. But on the flip side, I also see why it makes sense and why it works. So that I'll just say that.
Councilmember DePino.
Thank you, Mayor. And, I was one of those people who has been critical in the past of the chamber. And, I still am. I think that's important and healthy for our relationship with the city and the chamber, to better each other, better ourselves. And, I did fight to lower that from 8,000. I believe it was at 8,000 to what we're proposing now currently. But there are definitely benefits of having a chamber of commerce. And, as Councilmember Blair was kind of alluding to, it's not necessarily a sponsorship or a membership. Excuse me. It's not necessarily a membership, but it's more of a partnership that we have, that we're, it's not just the sponsoring and the getting the advertisement, and of course the revenue generated from all these events that they host. It helps our businesses, bringing people into Yelm from outside of the city, helps our economy. It's not necessarily that though, but it's also our input and our kind of sway as well on the chamber, that we're having these partnerships where we can have influence on how these events are developed, how they look a little bit. And I think that is an important partnership. And also, I was wondering, one thing that I think that maybe some of the council members would appreciate getting, for lack of a better word, a little more bang for our buck, is it makes sense to me. I think this contract stipulates four tickets to each forum they have. I think that we should up that to 8 tickets, where we could, if all of city council and the mayor would like to attend, or if we need to have staff, that would also help us with that cost, instead of having to purchase other tickets. And the other thing would be, for me at least, I would really like to, and something that I've been hearing just about every year is, in Yelm, when elections occur, we don't have any candidate forums. We're lucky. We're very lucky to have one if we're lucky, and the chamber is nice enough to host a candidate forum for their members, and I really appreciate them for doing that. But I would like to ask if the chamber would consider allowing the public to attend these candidate forums at cost for as part of this partnership that we have in this contract. Lynn, do you think that's something that that could be worked out?
That's certainly something that we would be interested in looking at further. I would probably want to change the format a little bit and make it instead of, or do, two of them where we have our normal one for the chamber members, and then do maybe a community candidate forum that's held in the evening, to give the people who aren't going to be there for work the opportunity to attend as well.
That sounds very reasonable. Yeah.
If you look at the contract more closely, you'll see that included in this agreement, there are 3 tickets to each monthly forum already. And so that's already been considered. Council, I'll call on the folks as they came up in order. Mind you, this contract had been already approved in the budget. That's why it came before you today as just a housekeeping, sign the contract by the end of the year. If you wish to modify the contract at all, you could simply take this off of the agenda tonight and move it to a study session where you could fine tooth comb that contract and make changes to it, rather than trying to do that all tonight by consensus. So that's an option for you as well. I'll go to Council Member Smith and then Kaminsky, then Crossman.
Okay. I just wanted to say, I mean, I've lived here since '95, and I will tell you that the events and happenings that are going on now and have been going on in the past few years, many of them put on by the chamber, I'm a big supporter of theirs. I do think they do an amazing job, and $4,000 is $4,000, and I get that, but I do think in the grand scheme of things, I think it's a good use of the money. So that's all I wanted to say.
Councilmember Kaminsky.
I was just going to add, in going to the chamber lunch today, we learned that when Lynn joined the chamber, there were 63 members in this area for 4 cities. And now there's close to 200 or over 200. She's done a phenomenal job of bringing people together. And where else can you go and have lunch if you show up and talk to your legislators, talk to community leaders, port leaders? I mean, it's an amazing thing if you would join in and participate. So I think we'd be short-sighted in not recognizing that.
And thank you for being a consistent attendee at the chamber forums, Councilmember Kaminsky.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Crossman.
Okay, so you didn't sell me, Lynn. Sorry, but like James pointed out, it's important to partnership with the business community. I mean, that's how we're going to make Yelm grow, Yelm government grow, and pay the bills. And so we need to invest in that and, growing our businesses here in town and being a partner with that. And partnership with Chamber, I think, is the best way to partner with all local businesses here in town and the surrounding areas.
Okay, Council, since you've had an opportunity to ask questions, we pulled this off of the consent agenda. This could be then now taken as a separate item. The item before you would be the Yelm Chamber of Commerce Partnership Agreement with the City of Yelm. The motion would be to approve that contract agreement. Councilmember Blair.
Just a quick question, and either Mayor or Lynn, whoever can answer it. If we wanted to talk about those changes, for instance, specifically to the forum events or upping the tickets for, like, if the entire council were to go or something like that, I don't know. Do we need to set this aside to have those discussions first, or could that be worked out afterwards?
So yes and yes. If you want to change anything in the contract as it exists at tonight's meeting, I would strongly recommend that you table it to a future meeting so that you could have those discussions at greater length, change the language in agreement with Lynn, and then bring it back to council for action. However, you could pass it as it exists and then still take it into a conversation with Lynn at a future study session or other meeting and fine tune that contract as a memorandum of understanding between the two agencies.
I'm good with that. I mean, I don't want to, that was my other question is I didn't, if we don't pass it, is there any negative output? I'm not trying to do anything bad. It just, if we can pass it as is and still talk about those other things and work it out, then that's fine with me.
You agreeable to that concept, Lynn?
Certainly.
All right. Councilmember Kaminsky?
I'd like to move that we accept the contract between the city and the Chamber of Commerce.
I second that.
I think I heard Councilmember Crossman second that. Was that correct? All right, motion and seconded to accept the contract. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Contract is approved. Thank you, Lynn, for coming in and helping to answer those questions tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Second up is has been pulled off the consent agenda is the intergovernmental services contract between the Nisqually River Foundation and the city of Yelm. Josh, did you want to ask questions about that?
Yes. So I read through that, and this sounds like, why is this not on the school budget, school district's budget item? Why is it on the city's budget rather than the school district?
Oh, it's on both, actually. School district also partners with Nisqually River Foundation. This is the educational part of the Nisqually River Council. And so they work with schools all over the region. All of the municipalities, all of the school districts partner with the Nisqually River Foundation to provide educational opportunities for students. They do water testing, water quality testing. They go to the Green Congress every year. This helps support those activities. Our fifth grade classes here in Yelm are participating in that. And we've always, again, this has gone back way before I was even on council, that we've been supporting this effort locally. Similarly, there are other contracts that will come to the council's attention as they see them during budget session. We support the Yelm Senior Centers for $1,000 a month. We support a number of other organizations that provide services like the Boys and Girls Clubs, the collaborative agreement that we have with them, renting that building to them for $1 a year for 300 years. These things we do to build a tighter community, and these are monies that previous councils have all felt were reasonable to support these agencies in the work that they do. Any other specific questions about this contract? Then there is a motion, or there is a item before you, would be to sign the intergovernmental services contract between the Nisqually River Foundation and the city of Yelm.
Tracy Wood, so moved.
Second.
Seconded by, I'm giving this one to Holly. Terry, I'm sorry. She had her hand going up before your mouth started moving. So seconded by Councilmember Smith. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Well,
Opposed.
So we have 3 nays and 3 ayes, which makes it a split decision. The mayor cannot break this tie because it has to do with the expenditures of funds. So someone could make an impassioned plea to change the other's mind, or you could remove this and take it to a study session for further discussion. Anybody want to try? Councilmember Wood?
For me, guys, it's really simple. I think it's important to try to help to maintain an area for our kids to actually learn what outside is like before they lose the opportunity to learn. I mean, so to even consider not helping to support something like this is really kind of a scary vision of to what the future of this community is going to look like. But it seems to me like it's pretty much a no-brainer. They're not. There's a lot of things. I mean, we just wasted a bunch of money on an election to ask people if they wanted to ban fireworks, for crying out loud. And you're going to balk at this. This is, to me, this is amazing, and it's going to be an interesting ride in the future. That's my input on this one.
Councilmember Crossman, then Blair.
I was going to say, I think this should just be under the school district's budget and not the city's. I'm not really opposed or for it either way. I just see this is all a school item thing, not a city thing. So everything that it pays for in the contract is all seems school district related. So that's my only thing.
Councilmember Blair.
That was my same thing. Like, just my understanding from it, maybe I'm not understanding, and someone can possibly explain it a little better. It's just from what I'm looking at, this looks more like a school district thing is all I'm saying.
You know, we have
not that I'm against it at all. I'm trying.
Yeah.
I was just very confused.
Well, I think we have an expert in this field has just popped up. And so we'll ask Public Services Director Cody Colt to make a statement here.
Did you want to go first, Councilmember Pino, or do you want me to?
It's the mayor's decision.
Okay. So I just want to, so part of what we get from this is the testing has to be done on the river in several places based on what our requirements are for Ecology and Department of Health. So when they do this testing, they give us those results. So it may not cost us $3,000, but we have to send someone down to test the river. The kids get to do it this way. We get that information and we get to use that on our answers back to Ecology and Health. So we don't have to do that same testing. So that's kind of the benefit the city gets from this is instead of us doing it, kids are learning this, they're providing us results. So there's where the city city benefits from that aspect of this.
Thank you. James, you're going to have to wait your turn again. I'm sorry. Councilmember DePino, then Kaminsky.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering procedurally what this is under right now, because no one made any motion or anything. This should be the next item if I know Robert's rules correctly, but perhaps not.
This was taken off of the agenda, the consent agenda for discussion. That's what we're engaged in. There has been no motion on this contract yet.
There has been. There was a vote taken and it failed.
Oh, excuse me. You're right. It didn't fail nor pass. It tied at 3-3, and so there was a discussion if anybody wanted to change the minds of the council members and take another vote on it, because at this point it's just dead in the water. So. That's why we asked for more discussion before we take another vote. Or if what I'm going to ask after the discussion is if anybody's interested in changing their vote, we could ask for another vote. Otherwise, it would have to come off and come before the council at another meeting. Councilmember Kaminsky.
Okay, as your city representative on the Nisqually River Council for the last number of years, this group is so complex, I couldn't even begin to tell you what they do. In addition to education, it's sustainability, it's the river, it's the salmon run, it's the orca. It is so complex. They've purchased thousands of acres of lands for interpretive centers. I mean, it's huge. And Mayor Foster can tell more because he's been on it longer than me. It is so critical, and on the council, there's over 50 people. It's a huge group of important, amazing people. And I didn't even realize how important and special our river is. It's a one-of-a-kind river council for a river that begins from a glacier and ends in the ocean. And I've even heard people talk about this being on our bountiful byway because it will bring people to the region. Our involvement and relationship with these people is vital in my view. And JW, please say more because I can only touch the surface. It's incredible what this group does.
I will respond to that request after I call on Councilmember Blair.
Okay.
I needed that more info, which is the only reason why I voted no originally. Because like I said, me looking at this contract just tells me it's a school thing. So that tells me that the city shouldn't be in it. It should be a school thing. And Cody, please correct me if I'm wrong. I would assume that if we were to pay to have those tests done, it would probably be more than $3,600 if it's anything like any other kind of studies out there. So that alone probably makes it worth it. Sorry, the dogs just came in. So I'm gonna move to take another vote. If that's the way to word it.
That is exactly the way to word it. And I just do want to respond to the request. And I'll just say that when this contract was first brought to the city, we focused on this project because of what Cody was saying, but this also helps fund this organization that Terry has pointed out is extremely important to the education and support of our community and the Nisqually River Council and Nisqually River efforts. So they just sort of landed on the water testing, but it's a lot more than that. So Councilmember Blair has moved to request a revote on this item. We need a second on that and an approval to do that.
Tracy Woods, second.
Motion and second to revote on the Nisqually River Foundation contract. All in favor?
1 sec.
Oh, yes, go ahead. I should have asked for discussion. Go ahead, James.
What we're saying right now is yes, we want to revote, and then we actually vote.
Correct.
Okay.
This is just on the motion to take the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Are we doing the vote, or are we doing that vote right now? Is that what's going on there?
Well, that's what I was trying to do. So all in favor of taking the vote over again, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
We have a revote. So on the motion or on the item of the intergovernmental services contract between the Nisqually River Foundation and the city of Yelm, do we have a motion?
So moved.
So move to approve, correct, James? Okay, second to that.
Tracy Woods, second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Oh,
Okay, the motion passes 4-2. Thank you for the discussion. And again, council, a lot of these small contracts are going to come up before you in the budget. That's why it's really important for people who are on the finance committee in particular, but oftentimes like in the public services committee and others, you're going to learn about these relationships we have with some of these smaller organizations. And it's there that these decisions can be made. Council can talk about them all they want at study sessions, but when they become part of the budget, the expectation is as they come up, they'll be on the consent agenda if they're below that signing limit. And the council has an opportunity to look at them again in their packet, like you did this time. But most of the time, they should just be passed through approval of the consent agenda. So, but what a great discussion. Thanks, everybody, for that. We're going to move on now to the new business, which is the first one. Pat Hughes is going to come on and talk about the supplemental agreement for Mossman Avenue Phase 2.
Yes, good evening, council and mayor. Things are pretty busy in the capital improvements area and about to get even more so, at least for me. So I've got a couple of big contracts for you tonight. First of all, Phase 2 of our Mossman Avenue reconstruction and extension project has been a long time in the making, and you cannot know how glad I am to finally arrive at this milestone tonight. It's taken just short of 9 years to get this project to this point. The engineering design and the right-of-way property acquisition phases have been completed, and this project is now finally ready to move into the construction phase. The project reconstructs Mossman Avenue from Railroad Street to Solberg Street and extends Mossman Avenue across a portion of the Tahoma Valley Golf Course over to Longmire Street. So an advertisement for construction bids was published for 3 consecutive weeks on October 28th, November 4th, and 11th, and sealed bids were opened on November 19th. 16 bids were received. Yes, this is an unusual large amount of responses, but that actually works out very favorable for the city. The bids were reviewed for completeness and accuracy, and by the way, the bids were very, very tight on this bidding process. So I put the bid tabulation in your packet so you could see that. Barcott Construction of Chehalis, Washington was determined to be the lowest qualified bidder. If that name sounds familiar to you, they completed our Mill Road sidewalk project and phase 1 of our new dog park. A standard WashDOT local agency agreement is included in your packet. And also, just so you know, a little over half of this construction contract, approximately $635,000, is being paid for with a Federal Highway Administration grant. The remainder will come from the already budgeted and approved road and street construction fund. Also, a part of this.
Pat, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Councilmember Blair, first off, folks, would you please use the little yellow hand, raise your hand function? It's a lot easier for me to catch those rather than just waving at me. But Pat, are you okay with questions during your presentation?
Yeah, I'm almost done, but if you want to add, that's fine. Go ahead.
Councilmember Blair?
Point of order, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've raised my hand multiple times using this feature and it's been ignored. Should I verbally call out?
Well, I beg to differ with you, Councilmember DePinto. If the little yellow hand is up there, it's right at the top of my screen, and I call on them in order, and then I lower them after the person has, like Josh's hand just went up. I see them all the time.
Well,
it's a lot easier for me to see the yellow raised hand function than it is to see the human hand. And so I will go in order of Councilmember Blair and then Councilmember Crossman.
I just wanted to ask if you happened to have the page number of the bids that were received.
I don't, but I can scroll down here and see if I can find it.
I think I'm in the right spot, but I'm just not seeing it.
The bid tabulation page is on 16.
Thank you. Now seeing the same name on projects over and over is a little, I'm sure they do great work. But it almost seems like it might be a little suspect. It's a little too convenient that a same company keeps coming in as the low bid. I don't know how that happens, but I mean, personally, I would like to see more than just one company doing everything. I don't know how that happens or how this whole process works, but just throwing that out there that
I'm not sure what your question is for me. The bidding process is strictly regulated. This is a federal highway contract, and the bidding procedures are set in stone through the local agency manual. They just happen to get it.
Thank you, Pat, for trying, but Councilmember Blair, your question is finding fault with the entire bidding system. If you feel like that's corrupt in some way, I would ask you to bring some sort of a formal complaint forward, but it is a sealed process. There is no communication with these groups before they all get the same RFP. They all have to get their proposals in at a certain time. They're opened with 2 people watching. There's no room for hanky-panky on that.
Thank you. No, like I said, I don't know the entire process. It just, my perspective, it just seems strange, that's all.
Yep. Actually, the bids were read aloud publicly. We did the public opening on Zoom to the public.
Councilmember Crossman?
To that fact, yeah, we've seen some other contractors do work in the city and Barcott's. I mean, you'll see the same names over and over again because there's only a handful of contractors that do a lot of these projects. And Councilman DePinto, when you put your yellow hand up, your background makes it hard to see on that. So that might help you out on that one.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wood.
As Councilmember Crossman just pointed out, I wanted to also comment that Councilmember DePinto's hand's a little tough to see on the Bridge of the Enterprise there. But nevertheless, I do enjoy your Bridge of the Enterprise.
Thank you. I didn't realize that. If that's the case, Mayor Foster, are you able to see this or?
Yeah, I see it in two different places, actually. It pops up on the screen. I see yours just fine on the bridge there, but I also see it in the participants window, which I also have open. The hand pops up. So I don't know what the issue had been, but I'll try to be very aware of hands as they go up and call on them in the order that I see them.
Thank you.
So Pat, sorry for the interruption. If you want to finish your presentation.
Yes, I'm nearly done with this one. I just also wanted to add that as part of the requirements for a federal aid project, there's inspection services that need to be done. Gray and Osborne provided the design services for this project and have been selected to provide the required inspection services. So they have a supplemental agreement I've included in your packet, and it outlines in detail the scope of work that they will be required to do and a breakdown of the anticipated fee to complete these services. So staff is recommending approval to authorize Mayor J.W. Foster to sign a local agency contract with Barcott Construction of Chehalis, Washington, in the not to exceed amount of $1,160,408, including Washington state sales tax, and approval of supplemental agreement number 15 with Gray and Osborne for the construction inspection services for a not to exceed amount of $216,725, all for the reconstruction of Mossman Avenue Phase 2. Before you ask, construction, assuming we get approval here tonight, is slated to begin in mid-January. And if you have any questions about either of these contracts or any other questions related to this project, I'll be happy to try to answer them for you.
Any questions for Pat? Then the motion before you would be to approve the local agency contract and supplemental agreement for Mossman Avenue Phase 2. Councilmember Kaminsky.
I'd like to motion everything Pat just outlined.
Okay.
Motion to approve that.
A motion to approve by Councilmember Kaminsky, seconded by DePinto. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Pat. And let's turn now to Pat.
Again.
And talk to us about the Public Works contract for the well.
Yes, this one works very similar to the one I just talked about. This one is for our downtown wells treatment facility upgrades. On January 8th, council approved a professional services agreement with RH2 Engineering for design services for the proposed upgrades to the city's downtown wells treatment facility. This is the small building located underneath the historic water tower on 2nd Street downtown. Engineering plans, which are designed to address a number of deficiencies that were outlined in their original PSA, are now complete, and this project is also ready for construction. So an advertisement for construction bids was published in 2 consecutive weeks on November 4th and 11th of 21. Sealed bids were opened on November 23rd at 2 o'clock at City Hall and read aloud publicly. 5 bids were received, and all bids received were reviewed for completeness and accuracy. Pease and Sons, contractors of Tacoma, were determined to be the lowest qualified bidder. The final bid tabulation is included in your agenda packet along with a copy of the public services contract. Construction on this project is expected to begin immediately upon execution of the contract. RH2, who provided the engineering design services, has been selected to provide the required inspection services, and the attached PSA, Public Services Agreement, outlines the scope of work and breakdown of their anticipated fee to complete these services. So for this motion, staff is recommending approval to authorize Mayor J.W. Foster to sign a public works contract with Pease and Sons, contractors of Tacoma, Washington, in the not to exceed amount of $1,152,382.14. and approval of a professional services agreement with RH2 Incorporated for construction inspection services for a not to exceed amount of $170,200 for the construction of the downtown wells treatment facility upgrades. Funds for both of these contracts will come from the already budgeted water capital improvements fund. So again, if you've got any questions on either of these contracts or any project related questions, I'll try to answer them.
Councilmember DePinto.
Move to authorize Mayor J.W. Foster to sign a public works contract, the Peas and Sons Incorporated contractors to come Washington, and approval of the professional service agreement with RH2 Incorporated for the construction of the downtown wells treatment facility upgrades.
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Blair. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, very good. Thank you, council. Thank you, Pat.
Yep, time to get to work.
All right. And I see that ready to go, Casey Mock is here to talk to you about an amazing grant opportunity that she was successful in writing. And tell us more, Casey.
Yes, can everyone hear and see me?
Yes.
Okay, I have what I hope to be a pretty easy agenda item for you tonight. We received from the Washington State Department of Commerce Growth Management Services a grant for the amount of $75,000, which will run through June 2023, and that's for the development of a housing action plan. You may remember this term from when we presented our annual code updates. A housing action plan, it'll take stock of our current housing, project what we have and what we need in the future, and develop options for strategies that we can implement in our development process to increase the variety of affordable housing. This grant requires no local match. It is just through Commerce, and we receive the funds upon providing the deliverables. Does anyone have any questions?
Councilmember Blair?
Didn't this come up previously a couple meetings back? And I thought we voted to not participate in this.
So the code updates, there were a few code updates that mentioned a housing action plan. That's completely separate from this. By signing this contract and interagency agreement, this just says you consent to receiving the funds, we develop the plan, and then that plan is just a guiding document that provides us really helpful guidance on possible options we can take. And if we do decide to update our development code or standards, that would come before council.
Okay. I don't think we need to give someone $75,000 to tell us that we need more housing.
We received the $75,000.
I understand. Me personally, give it back to where it came from. I don't think tax money, it's still tax dollars, whether it came from the city or outside the city. That we don't need $75,000 for someone to tell us that we need more housing. I can tell you right now, with rents pushing up over 2,000, pushing close to 2,300 on average in Yelm, we need more housing. I just saved you $75,000. My own view is this is a waste of tax money.
Councilmember Crossman.
Kind of the same. Line of thought there. What's this study going to tell us? We need more housing of all types. I mean, what could they do that we can't do already, or that developers already know what to do? I'm just not seeing why we spending, again, taxpayer money on something like this. You know, I know it's a grant, but it's still taxpayer money, and I don't know.
Okay.
Go ahead, Casey.
Sorry,
No,
Joe,
go
are
ahead.
you okay if I say
Yes,
something, or would
please
you like
do.
to go now? Okay. Stephanie can probably confirm this. I see you're on. So this grant is administered through the State Department of Growth Management. I believe even if we do not accept our grant, that money is set aside, and that is taxpayer money that has been set aside for this specific purpose. That money cannot be used for anything else. So if we decide not to accept the grant, that maybe penalizes Yelm, but does not affect the grand scheme of where the money's going. In terms of what the plan does, you know, obviously we need more housing. We all know that. It's pretty simple, but you know, there are a lot of different actions that the city government can take to aid in creating that housing market. And quite frankly, we don't have the capacity or staff to do that kind of research. This is something that other consultants do. The cities of Olympia, Tumwater, Lacey, they all have completed housing action plans and are now implementing those strategies. And it's looking to be a very successful program.
Councilmember DePinto.
Thank you, Mayor. And Casey, perhaps you could talk more about this plan, specifically what the money is going towards, whether we're contracting with someone to make it, whether we're doing having a staffer spend time on it, whatnot. But I also want to, I mean, yeah, we need more housing, but I think it also helps us develop what kind of housing as well. Single family homes? Are we talking about apartments? Are we talking about multi-use buildings, commercial and residential on top? I think there are low income, what have you. And so, yeah, we need more housing. I think everyone gets that. But this would also allow us to help plan for what kind of housing that we do need to develop here in Yelm. And, you know, if we want to develop, if these lots are big enough for, I mean, that's always a conversation, whether we want to, how much we can subdivide a lot. And this would also help for that. If we need more density, then yeah, maybe we need to subdivide even more. So there's a lot of other ways. And also, Casey, maybe also Cody can jump in on this one too, but are there any grants that require this housing, this plan to be in place before we can go after some of that funding, whether it's federal or state?
So I'm not aware if there are any grants that, you know, require this plan to be in place. It wouldn't surprise me if that is the case. That's just not, you know, knowledge I have prepared for you now, but you're right on the mark, Councilmember DePinto, that really the purpose of this, obviously we need more housing. But what this does is it allows us to, first of all, focus on public input, see which communities don't have their housing needs addressed. And whether that is disabled people or veterans, you know, seniors, everyone has different needs in the community. And having an opportunity like this to get data on that, which we don't have, is going to be beneficial for many years to come. And in terms of spending the money, the majority of it we've set aside for consultants to conduct the needs analysis and the actual plan. And then I believe the exact amount is about 7 of the 75,000 is set aside for staff time.
Councilmember Blair.
I totally get the idea behind programs like this. However, in reality, and look at the homelessness stuff, all the money that's spent on that. Really, when it comes down to it, these programs pad the pockets of consultants and don't really do anything to actually help anyone. Straight up. Olympia and Lacey or Seattle having housing action plans is not the best example of a success story, in my opinion. I don't know if you've been out there lately, but it's pretty clear. So again, whether there's money coming out of the city, money coming from the state, the feds, whatever it is, you're giving a bunch of money to a bunch of consultants, and that's all money that could just be used to do something. As far as if we need to decide what kind of housing it is, then just open up our zoning, and the developers are going to know what is best needed for each community anyway, more so than the city. So I'm a hard no. That's just where I'm at.
Councilmember Kaminsky.
Okay. I'm not saying we shouldn't accept money. I'm not saying that. But the issue to the housing issue that we have, firstly, we have huge inflation and supply chain shortages. Okay. And we do not need another study. We do not need to know more data. We don't need to throw away $75,000 doing anything at all. Okay. If we're short of houses, the only way that we can get contractors to build is if they are subsidized for the money they would lose to build a house for $150,000 or whatever we deem affordable to the public. So you'd almost be better off giving $75,000 to one builder to build one house so one family could move in there. I mean, we don't need another study. I'll tell you that right now. And the average price of a house in Yelm is pretty much $400,000 right now. So we don't need to study that. I'm just saying from my own experience in the field. I'm not saying we shouldn't take the money, but another study is a useless thing to do.
Councilmember Wood?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we've talked about grants lots over the last several years, and it always, I mean, we get into these long-term discussions and debates, and I don't disagree with you guys. I think that it's another study. Are you kidding me? No, I don't disagree with you guys at all, but I think that is not where the discussion lies right here. That's a discussion for each and every one of us to have with our state representatives, because this is where this decision was made for this grant money to be handed out. So to address what Councilmember Blair said, for us, I understand, you know, a hard no, you don't want to take this money, but that's not having an impact on anything by doing that. Like, once again, the problem isn't with us deciding to take money that if we don't take, it's just going to go to another community and benefit that other community on some other level. The grant money's already been decided it's going to be spent. So if we don't take that grant money, then it benefits another community. I'm with all you guys. I agree. That's not a real benefit to us. However, it's not, it'll just end up not being a real benefit for another community, where I think that any benefit at all gained from it, we might as well take it and gain the benefit. There's no strings attached to it. And we're not going to, I mean, it's going to be spent anyway. But like I said, the debate or the discussion is each and every one of us have an opportunity to try to reach out to our state reps and say, hey, this is not right. But even then, I don't have to tell you how much, you know, there's a lot of voices saying a lot of different things to these guys. So I guess it's the one who comes in and gives the best explanation as to why we shouldn't be doing this is hopefully going to get their attention and help them make the right decisions. But I think we need to not lose sight of the fact of what this discussion is as to whether or not we should take grant money that otherwise will be sent somewhere else. And nobody in any of these other communities will look at this and go, wow, you know, that was really great of Yelm to not accept money that was just going to be given to somebody else. Something to think about.
Councilmember Smith?
I was just going to say, listening to Tracy, I was thinking along the same lines. I was thinking of the ARPA, you know, it's the same kind of thing. If we don't take it, it's going to go someplace else. And I just want to make sure I'm understanding that grant would need to be specifically used for that study, correct? There's no other.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Councilmember Crossman?
Yeah, back to that argument of you gotta say no sometime, somewhere. Also, the budgets will keep going. Like, oh, we spent all this last year. Now we need more money to keep up with that. So somewhere it has to stop. And that's, you know, like I said, I don't see the point of the study. I think it's useless. I don't care if the money goes to some. I don't care if Tacoma takes all that grant money. Let them have it. But I'm not going to say yes for it. I'm going to be, somebody has to say no sometime.
Councilmember DePinto?
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, it's a robust conversation debate here. I like it. It's, you know, sometimes we can see right away what the vote's going to be. And sometimes like this, you don't know until the final vote's cast. So I kind of like this, but I'm also on the side where, you know, Councilmember Wood made a good point. And I know Councilmember Crossman just kind of tried to counter that as well. And I see both sides. I get, you know, where some of the folks on council right now are saying you got to take a stand, and it's more of a philosophical no rather than a no on substance here on the policy. But, you know, all those people, like Councilmember Wood was saying, they're going to benefit from this. They're not going to say no. They're going to take this money. I mean, if we can say no, but we need a lot more. And I'm for that. I get what you're saying, Councilmember Crossman, but we need a lot more people, a lot more cities and city councils to also join us. Otherwise, we're not changing the system here. We're just, shooting ourselves in the foot for funding. And if this isn't something that we really need, yeah, I think that we could vote no on this. But I think Casey and Cody can make a good argument on why we do need it. And I see Cody's hand up, but I'm curious to know, why do we have to have this, Cody? Please entertain this.
Well, I was going to help you guys kind of hopefully solve or answer your own self. So there's a bill passed by the House Senate in 2019, House Bill 1923. And part of that, when the population crests 10,000, you're required to perform a housing action plan. So if we don't take the money, we're still going to have to do the housing action plan, just spend our own money to do it. So using this grant money would use grant money to get us on that. There's a lot of other requirements for this House bill as well. But I figured that would help you answer your question about why we have to do this is because state law is requiring us to do this through a legislative action. And if you guys want to look at it, I'll just tell you really quickly, adapt a plan action pursuant of RCW 43.21C.440. So just so you guys know that, yes, we will have to do this at some point. I preferably would rather use this grant money to do it than pull it from our general fund money and take it from sales tax or other dollars in our local fund. In case you did a really, really great job of finding this grant, applying for it early on and getting it done. And these are relatively new things. So just to address Councilmember Blair, I know that I've driven through downtown Olympia and it's a scary place, but these were just now created in the last year and two. So I don't think these housing action plans have been responsible for what you're doing. I'm hoping they're a way out of what has been happening. So just to give you that insider information.
Councilmember Blair. Thanks, Cody.
See, Cody, you got to come out swinging earlier, bro. So to clarify, it's RCW that we have to do the study whether we want to or not.
Yes.
Now, that's where the money's coming from. Is I'm assuming it's from the state, and at least the state did a funded mandate this time rather than other times. That ties my hands, man. Yeah, then that I get it. That's a legislature conversation then. As much as I don't like it, if we're required to do it by law, I'll tell you right now, we're not pulling $75,000 out of the general fund. So that I don't know. It is what it is on that. Are we required to do anything past the study?
There is a lot of other requirements in this, and I can share it with you, Council, but the study is kind of the main bulk of that requirement.
Sitting on the Regional Housing Council, if somebody wants to ask me to put input into this so that I can.
Please give us input, Mayor Foster.
Thank you, Councilmember Kaminsky. Having sat on the Regional Housing Council, and Holly's new to that, but she'll be hearing the same thing. Having the housing plan opens the doors to allow us to receive monies to do other things. And without the plan, you don't get those opportunities. So it's not like giving the builders some money to have them do the right thing. That's where you get gentrification of a community, where all they want to do is build the high-end homes that they make the most profit from. But if you get the grant that demonstrates we need a certain amount of housing for lower to moderate income people to support our community, then those grants are available to subsidize those builders to make that kind of housing. You can't even apply for those grants if you don't have the housing action plan. So that's some of the stuff that one thing leads to the other. Councilmember DePino.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. Just a point of constructive criticism. It would be helpful in the future when we're creating these staff reports if we include some of these answers as the reason why that we're doing this. I know it's not as clear on some of them, but I think that would save us a lot of time and debate here when we go, this is why we have to have it. It's mandated by state, or I grew up with the who, what, where, when, why. If we could have all of those things, it solves a lot more problems. And I'm not faulting anyone or anything like that, but it would just be helpful in the future. Make sure that, I mean, knowing how council is, we're having these questions. It just makes things a little bit smoother.
Cody, you popped in for a reason.
Yeah, and I'll take fault for that, Councilmember DePino. You know, grants, we've typically been pretty, you know, here's the grant, we're going to do what we need to do, and you guys have trusted our staff to do that, and I understand the questioning and where you guys are coming from, so we'll make sure, and I'll direct staff to do that. It's my fault that we didn't include that in this, and, you know, Casey's done nothing but an amazing job, so I will take any blame and punishment if you guys want to give it to me for that, so.
Yeah, just help. I was not blaming anybody. I'm just saying in the future, it's just more helpful for the council to have that.
Totally understand. We will adjust our grant requests to have those kind of the answers for you guys when they come up on council in the future.
Councilmember Crossman.
Yes, having that vital piece of information that it helps fulfill some state mandates is helpful, even though I disagree with it. I really hate all this money that consultations get paid. I need to be a consult. So yeah, having that information, that is, if this goes to satisfy stuff that we have to do, then yeah, I mean, it makes sense to do it then. But if it's just something we don't need to do, because it doesn't make sense to me at all, this whole thing still doesn't make sense. I don't see the value in it. I would be against it, but now that I know it's required by state, this will fulfill that, then yeah, we don't want that coming out of our budget. Make the state pay for it.
Okay, Councilmember Blair, we've lost you. Want to make sure you're part of all this discussion because I feel a motion coming. But in the meantime, Councilmember DePino.
I'll try to slow it down a little bit for my last motion, but I move to accept and sign the interagency agreement with the Washington State Department of Commerce for Housing Action Plan Implementation, HAPI grant to adopt a housing action plan.
Seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky. Councilmember Blair, were you able to hear the motion?
Yeah, I didn't realize that I hit the video button.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? I will take a roll call vote based on the previous discussion. On the motion on the floor, how do you vote, Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Crossman?
Aye.
Which one is that? Who's next? Oh, Councilmember Smith, excuse me.
Aye.
Councilmember Wood?
Aye.
Councilmember DePino?
Aye.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
Aye.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Casey. And lesson learned, never open up your presentation with, I think this will be a short agenda item.
Message received.
Very good. Okay, let's get back to the agenda. We have finished our new business, our old business, and then moving into the mid-biennium budget amendment. Stephanie Dice.
Woohoo! Let's save fun for the end. Thank you, Mayor and council members. So the actual ordinance is on page 73 of your packet, but I do have a presentation to go through. So I will, if I can share my screen.
You should have share screen. Oh, panelists. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, let me try this. There it is. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So as you all know, 2022 is the second year of the adopted biennial budget, and we are required by RCW to do a budget amendment mid-biennium. So the ordinance does need to be passed by December 31st. And so I'm just going to walk through this presentation with you. So when this budget was adopted, the budget goals: safe neighborhoods, sustainable, cost-effective infrastructure, strong, diverse economy, vibrant public places, and best-run government. Policies, your budget policies were to maintain a balanced budget for ongoing programs and to maintain a general fund balance at a minimum of 15% of annual expenditures. And by those, it's the operating expenditures. So objectives of the budget were to ensure financial integrity, sound and prudent financial management, maintain programs ensuring long-term ability to pay associated costs, and promote openness and transparency. So this is a budget amendment, and so what we are doing is we are amending the 2021 budget. We have a few items for that, and then we're amending the 2022 budget. So I'm going to go through this list, and I discovered this little red pointer. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go through 2021 first. And I'm going to start with the revenue amendments, we've already talked about. We have the ARPA grant, which we've accepted that ARPA grant, so we're just adding it to our budget. We've looked at and this is general fund right now. So we've looked at the general fund revenues that we've received to date, and we've looked at what we estimate those to be by the end of the year. So we think that property sales, B&O, and other taxes in the general fund are going to come in about $366,000 more than what we budgeted. License and permit revenues we think will come in about $17,000 over. Intergovernmental revenues are almost $39,000 over what we budgeted. Those are mostly grants and state shared revenues. Charges for services we think are going to come in about $52,000 more. The one revenue category in the general fund that I believe is not going to come in as budgeted was interest income. As you all know, we are limited into what the city can invest in. Most of them are U.S. securities and that sort of thing, and the interest earnings are just not there this year. So we are taking a little bit of a hit in that area. So I'm recommending total revenue amendments of 1.7 about million to the general fund, and that's in 2021. If we drop down to expenditure amendments in 2021, based on the ARPA discussions and the council looking at that agenda that Michael Graham went through on the Schedule A. So we're going to use some of those grant funds to pay off the Killian Road LID, which you know is $1,179,000. The remaining amount of that ARPA money will go towards the purchase of the police department body and in-car cameras, with the remaining balance of that purchase coming from the surplus guarantee funds in the LID. Dropping down here, we do have some vacation leave payouts that we need to do that impact the general fund, just under $30,000. And then the last item is because we've had quite a bit of transition in the police department, they've incurred a little bit more overtime than we expected in 2021. And also just some of those retirements that have happened. We're adding $35,000 to the budget for that. And so the total amendments to the general fund expenditures are 1.385 million. And so we're estimating down here that the general fund ending fund balance, and this is an estimate, is about 1.5 million. So what happens in government is the estimated ending fund balance for 2021, it rolls up and it starts off the new year as your estimated beginning fund balance in 2022. So that's what that is. Now, when we look at revenue amendments in 2022, again, we get our second payment of the ARPA funds, so we'll receive that into the general fund. Looking at what was budgeted in 2022 in all the tax categories in the general fund, I think they're going to come in a little bit higher than what we budgeted. So I'm upping that 267,000. I think we're going to have about 17,000 more in license and permits than we budgeted. Charges for services, I think, will be up about 53,000. And then again, interest income in 2022, I do not see it rebounding, so we're going to ratchet that down a little bit. So that increases the general fund revenues in 2022 by 1.6 million. Dropping down to expenditures in the general fund, we, in the ARPA plan, we have the 1,014,000 is the remaining payment to pay off that LID. And then the remaining amount of 305,000 is to reimburse the city for IT investments and other COVID-related costs. Down here, talking to Cody Colt, we realized that the general fund does not need to transfer as much as we thought to the equipment rental fund for police vehicles, so we can reduce that transfer by 30,000. In 2022, we have some police recruitment cost. We are budgeting for 2 1-ups pending retirements. And I have a redundant retirement in there, and then some overtime. We are also, this budget would add a part-time accounts payable clerk to the general fund. It's actually split between the general fund and the utility funds. And then when this budget was originally adopted, it called for 1 maintenance worker that would be split 50% to the general fund and 50% to the, I believe it was the sewer fund. It was approved in the adopted budget, but the money wasn't in the budget. So this puts the dollars in the budget. And then this last item would be the cost of position adjustments, benefit increases that we are estimating pending the resolution of the union contract negotiations. So this is an estimate. I expect to, once we have known numbers from these contract negotiations, we'll come back to council with those true numbers on that. But I feel that it is prudent to put a placeholder in there, especially we know what the medical benefits are increasing by, and we know that there are going to be some costs related to the results of these negotiations. And so that is just an estimate number. And so when you put all this in, you come to an estimated ending fund balance in 2022 of 1,250,000 in the general fund. That does meet your 15% reserve requirement and is a little bit above that requirement. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop me and ask questions. So this, oh.
No, go ahead. I wasn't seeing any question hands go up.
Okay, I can only see like 5 people, so this is the graph that you've seen in the past. The top here, the gray line is general fund revenues. Then you drop down to general fund expenditures. So you can see that our revenues are exceeding the expenditures. When you come down here, the blue line is your general fund ending fund balance. The orange line is your 15% reserve requirement. So we are, we're meeting that requirement in 2022 and 2023, 2024 and beyond. You're just meeting that requirement. So it will take some looking at those numbers as we go, into the future. With that next biennium budget, we hope to start those conversations early, moving forward. Yes.
Stephanie, thank you for this. Does this include new revenue growth as well from sales tax?
Yes.
Even with that dip right there going into our general fund? I mean, not general fund, but our reserve.
In what year?
In 2024, 2025, and 2026.
So although your revenues are increasing, your expenditures are also increasing. And so that's where you're kind of getting into that dip.
Do you happen to know what percentage you're estimating it or projecting it to be like in 2024, 2025?
The increase in revenues,
Correct.
I believe I put in 3% into the forecast model.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. This is the street fund. So for 2021, we do have a couple adjustments. The first one is sidewalk repair maintenance had a $15,000 overage in cost. And then when I looked at the salary and benefits that were budgeted in the street fund, for some reason it's 40,000 over budget. I don't know why, but I scaled that back. In 2022, I did put an estimate amount in the street fund to cover those changes in benefits and positions and that sort of thing of about 16,000. Dropping down to the stormwater fund, we don't have any changes in 2021. In 2022, I did put an estimate again for those salary and benefit changes of about 14,000. And with the utility funds, with the city of Yelm, the utility funds are very healthy, and they can, they can afford those changes. Going into the water fund, the last presentation I did was on, and Cody was in that conversation also. We went over several of the capital project changes. There were rollovers into 2022, things that weren't getting done in 2021 that we were moving into 2022. So I didn't list out the details of all those again in this presentation because we'd already covered that. But so for the water fund, we do have some expenditure changes. We were going to transfer out to water capital improvements in 2021 of 2.1 million. We're going to move that to 2022. And then we have some salary and benefit adjustment estimates of 64,000 in the water fund. Down in the sewer fund, same thing. There was a transfer out budgeted in 2021 that we don't need, that we are going to move out to 2022. And then again, salary and benefit adjustments in 2022. And then in the IT services ER&R fund, one of the things that we do towards year end is we look at all of our funds and we make sure that the actual expenditures are going to come even or less than what was budgeted, because you do not want to overspend your funds, right? Council sets an expenditure level for each fund, and so it's the city's job to spend within that appropriation. If we think it might go over, then that's why we do budget amendments. So in the IT supplies and services, we are requesting an additional 15,000 for expenditures. The fund can support that expenditure. And then in 2022, just an estimate for the salary and benefit changes in the IT fund. We had one council request from council member Terry Kaminsky. In 2021, we called it the city beautification. We budgeted 20,000, about 10,000 has been spent. Terry has requested 50,000 in 2022. And Council Member Kaminsky, I don't know if you want to discuss what the items you have planned. I did list them out here: utility box wraps, murals, lighting, benches, planters, metal art.
Thanks, Stephanie. Yeah, it's been a bit of a learning curve working with people in the local businesses to try to make improvements to their storefronts. But in general, I would just say everything costs more than you think it will. And some of these big items For instance, I'd love to get some metal art in our new roundabouts, and I'm going to ask for maybe that to be incorporated in the state funding when they do those roundabouts, along with lighting that I think is important for safety. But should we not get some of those big ticket items worked in, it'd be great to have a little money to the side in case we need it. And I haven't even started looking into my park benches. Murals, I'm finding cost on average about $6,000 for a wall mural. And there's various ways to do them where I found that you can actually make attachments to the buildings so that we as a city kind of own the artwork and it can be removed and moved to other locations. So it's just been a really interesting journey on that, but I would love to have a little more leeway in the budget for some bigger things. The utility boxes I have to look into, but I thought I read PSC saying that there were like $1,000 to $2,000 to wrap a box. So I'm not 100% sure of that price. I have to look into it more, but it's just costly. So I thought I would ask for more. And it doesn't mean I'm going to spend it all at once, but to have it there, should something great come up, I think would be a great idea. And even lighting, I've talked with the chief and they're all for that when it comes to public safety as well. So sometimes things aren't in the budget, but if I have it, I can use it.
All right, thank you. Oops. So that was the end of my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Can you take your presentation down?
Yes.
Maybe I shouldn't have had you do that. There might have been questions relative to some of the slides, but this way I can see the group better. Are there questions? We've had 2 public hearings on this and plenty of other options for discussion, but this is the night you need to vote on this. So Stephanie is here to answer any questions you might have. Okay, not seeing, oh, wait a minute. There we go. Councilmember Kaminsky. You're muted.
You were mentioning the $40,000 that was above budget on the sidewalk project. Did I hear that right?
No, so the sidewalk project was about 15,000 over budget. What the 40,000 was, I believe that salary and benefits were over budgeted in the street fund.
Okay.
And so that actually is a savings.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Blair?
For the beautification increase, are we voting on that increase, or is that included in this full budget?
So I did include the 50,000 request in the municipal building fund for this ordinance.
Okay. I have a ton of respect for Councilmember Kaminsky and what she strives to do. I don't agree that we should spend the money on that. And like I've said before, and I know her and I don't see eye to eye on it, but I don't see that as something the city should be doing. I think if a business wants to make their building more attractive, then they should be doing that on their own. So that's where I'm at. So I don't know if this is the appropriate way to do it or anything, but I would move to remove that increase from the budget.
You can certainly do that at this point, and then the motion later would be to approve the budget as amended by this motion. So your motion would be to go back to the originally budgeted amount of $10,000 for the beautification project, James?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, before you ask a question, Terry, is there a second on Councilmember Blair's motion? For lack of a second, the motion dies on the floor. And so we're back to still having the discussion about the general budget amendment. Any other questions for Stephanie? See, Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got a couple of questions. First question, if I'm curious about the graph we were looking at, and Councilmember DePinto touched on this a little bit. There was 3 years there where we were dropping down even and below our reserves. And then in the last year on the graph there, it showed it took an upturn there. I'm curious if somebody's got an explanation as to what it is that changes in that year, that what adjustment takes place that puts us back on track. Because I notice primarily in all of the information, the numbers we were shown here, through 2021 and then all the way through 2022, our ending balance is continuing to decline. And I mean, I'm not sure who's on the budgeting committee, but it seems to me that's a problem. If we're continuing to decline and not making adjustments for it presently, then we're gonna run into a situation eventually. And I'm sure I don't have to explain that to anybody.
Stephanie, go ahead.
So the reason that it does that in 2027 is I believe it's the public safety building debt service is paid off. And I believe in 2027, there's maybe one interest payment of about 130,000 in 2027, but that's it. And then, so that's going to be paid off in 2027. And that's why that happens. As I did say earlier, you are going to get to a point in 2024, 2025, 2026, where you're just meeting that 15%. And so that's where, like I said, we're going to have some discussions going into the next biennium budget cycle.
And I don't disagree with you. However, I think that we're overlooking some potential dangers of viewing it like that. For example, the several $100,000 that we didn't anticipate that COVID was going to cost in IT expenses and things like that. So with the future, nobody can tell the future. It just seems like no matter what we budget for, no matter what we do, and this is not just our city budget and our normal budgets, including our business budgets and things like that. You have to kind of anticipate that. And it looks like to me like we're not really anticipating. We're hoping that everything runs smoothly, and at that point we can pull back up. And I hope that in fact is the way it goes, but I just don't think it's necessarily the best route to go on budgeting. But maybe you know something I don't.
Councilmember Blair.
That following year in 2027, when the public safety building debt service is paid off, so that money then goes back into the budget, I'm assuming, correct?
Correct. It'll go into your reserves.
So that's going to make up for that falling number.
It's going to build your reserves back up. Correct.
Okay.
So one thing you have to, sorry.
That's assuming that between now and then we don't take on some other new project that takes up that money instead.
Correct. So the one thing with this budget amendment is that, as I said, I put in some estimates for salary and benefit adjustments. I think it's a conservative way to go because we know that those union negotiations are going to land somewhere. But like I said, that's an estimate. It could be less, could be more. I don't know, but it's important. The finance committee is going to have to reconvene and really look at those numbers, and then we'll have to come back to council and have a discussion.
Councilmember DePinto.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think it is important to know how much that is going to increase. Stephanie, do you know off the top of your head how much that the building is going to take off our budget or add back to it? Excuse me. Right currently.
So in 2026, your debt service payment is $463,000. It drops down to $134,000 in 2027, and then it's zero after that.
So about 400-ish currently, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was a good point made about if we take on other debt, but that's a huge chunk of money, $400,000. If we can have 400,000 extra a year, that's a lot. And I get that it dips a little bit low into our reserves. Stephanie, how low does it go in our reserves on the lowest point? How much would we have? I'm sorry asking some very specific questions on it. If you have to
So,
get back,
so the way that we have the numbers estimated in 2024, your minimum requirement is 171,000. And you'll have about 25,000 in excess of that.
okay. And I also want to remind council too that this is just and Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a consistent 3% increase in revenue that you're assuming?
Right.
So with our water rights coming on board here, hopefully by January, and Cody, I'm going to hold you on this. We need these rights. It's going to have an explosion of growth as well, economic growth. And I do believe that we are going to make this up more than 3%. And that Stephanie's doing a very conservative estimate or projection here. That 3% could look a lot larger than that. I think this does keep our city in safe financial regards here with that low estimate or low projection. But we should also consider that we are going to have some other businesses coming to Yelm, some more people coming into Yelm. And so that's property and that sales tax that's going to, in my opinion, not a forecaster, economic forecaster or anything, but it should bring that up more than 3% of new revenue growth.
I would agree. I would agree with that statement. And for example, this year, in 2021, B&O has exceeded the budgeted amount already by like 127,000. But when I say 3% in revenue growth, that's everything but property tax. As you all know, that's limited to 1%. So.
No, but I agree with you 100%, Steph. I think it's prudent to give a conservative estimate like you're doing. And I could also be wrong too. The market crash, we could, that's why we had that reserve though, and that little that safety net for us. So I do feel safe with what she's budgeted, and I think we're gonna exceed it, honestly.
Okay, lots of good discussion over the past month or so. Council, the item before you is ordinance 1078, 2122. The proposed motion would be to adopt the 21-22 mid-biennium budget amendment.
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember DePinto.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Blair. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Oh, any
Aye.
opposed?
I am opposed.
I have one opposed. Councilmember Wood. Any other opposed, or with everybody else aye? Okay. Motion passes. Budget is adopted. Thank you, Stephanie, for your hard work on this. Stephanie and team have brought forward information to support this budgeting process like none other before them. And she doesn't like to take the credit for it, but it's her. And when you look at things like B&O, it's because her staff have been working so hard to get those B&O payments in where before they sort of languished. So more businesses come in, more B&O, but you also need staff to support those businesses. So it's a balance that the council's going forward will have to look at very carefully. So very good.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is the legislative priorities. Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Council, as you will see in the packet, this is the modifications of the legislative agenda that you made, including the addition from the last meeting and the reframing or repackaging. You could not take action because it was a study session. And so at your request, we're bringing this back to you to allow you the opportunity, if you choose, you don't have to, take action on a unified legislative agenda to go forth and advocate as a team going into this upcoming legislative session.
Questions for Michael? Council had a lot of opportunity to look at this at study session. The motion is there before you on page 78 to adopt the 2022 legislative priorities as presented
So moved.
by Councilmember Wood,
I'll second it.
by Councilmember Crossman, second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes, and materials will be sent out to council to help them in elevator speeches and so forth when you have opportunity to be in contact with our legislators so you can address and support those legislative priorities. Okay. I wouldn't say that we're right on time, but here we are. We'll go into department updates, starting with Michael Graham, then council members, then me, and then we do have an executive session scheduled for at the end of this meeting.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Just building off of the comments real quick on the budget, I can't say enough to echo the mayor's comments about the appreciation for Stephanie and the team. We have an absolutely phenomenal finance team, and they have endured a lot. They have slogged through a lot. They've worked with the independent accounting firm that we brought in. They build on the backs of previous finance directors that we've had. And Sandy Hines, I can't give enough shout outs to her, who really helped us start this process when I first began. And we transformed this budget from a spreadsheet to an actual budget, words, pictures, graphs, priorities, and everything else. So there's a lot that we, council, mayor, and staff have to be proud of with this budget and the adjustments in the process that we've established. The other thing I want to do is just to echo and build on Councilmember DePino's optimism for the budget going forward, and give credit where credit is due. There was a woman, a local real estate broker. I will not share her name. She knows who she is, but she came forward and brought something to our attention as a revenue opportunity. There is a tremendous amount of growth in real estate market and transactions that have been happening. And she is working with us to identify realtors that do not have business license. As many of you know, we do not take the business license enforcement action that we could or should. That's an opportunity for improvement in us. But as we find those opportunities, we identify and rectify them. This opportunity was brought to us and is tremendous because there's a lot of people that are doing business in the city of Yelm as real estate agents that don't have business license. And so there's an opportunity to get them into the fold and get them licensed to do business, but at the same time to make sure that they are taxed appropriately for the business that they're doing. So we are working with her on that, and that will be a significant effort by staff to get that done, but really appreciate her coming forward, just like so many other people have. Hey, here's opportunities to save money and make sure that our revenue is sustainable going forward. So thanks, Stephanie, to you and your team. With that, Mr. Mayor, I will provide some very short department updates for everyone. The first thing, that was sarcasm, by the way, council, just in case you didn't pick up on that through the Zoom. I think EJ would be sitting there going, oh God, here he goes again. First, I just have a couple of points to hit with you all. The importance of community events coming back and happening in person is phenomenal. And I just want to acknowledge and thank all the volunteers and the community partners who made Christmas in the park possible. We had the tower lit up. Cody had his colorful array of Christmas lights playing in the background, which was awesome. And all the work that Steve Craig and the folks that made that tower restoration and renovation possible is just a wonderful feature for our community. But I also want to give a shout out to the staff that were involved in our Christmas in the park festivities. They, especially Michael Malik, they went forward, and our IT team and our public works team, they were the ones that were behind all of this, serving as elves, taking photos with Santa, making the park look absolutely amazing. And it's because of them that really this happened, thanks to the staff and the community partners. I wanted to remind everyone that we have our annual Thanksgiving and Christmas event tomorrow. It's Thanksmas. This is our annual employee appreciation event. We will close the city offices for a little longer than normal lunch hour to convey our attitude of gratitude for our team of hardworking employees. As always, you're welcome to come, council. This Saturday, Cody and Todd asked me to mention that there is a free movie toy drive at Yelm Cinemas. Everyone who brings a toy can watch a free movie and get free popcorn and drinks and candy. There's nothing like a sugar rush for kids right and early in the morning, but this is a great event and encourages everyone to bring their families, bring some toys, watch a free movie, and enjoy the Rise of the Guardians together. And just want to give a shout out to the Lions Club, the Timberland Bank, and Yelm Cinemas, as well as to Chief Stansel and Cody Colt, who are volunteering for this event. Because of Christmas next week, our court is changing. The schedule will be modified slightly for 1 week only. It'll be held on Tuesday, December 21st, instead of Thursday, December 23rd. Passport services will only be on Wednesday, December 22nd, and then the normal schedule for court and passport services will resume after Christmas. Lastly, I wanted to remind everyone that this is our last meeting for 2021 and just acknowledge everything that we have to be thankful for. As you know, our team provides first-class services to our neighbors. Our employees are healthy and maintain the continuity of our operations while navigating the unprecedented challenges of a global pandemic. And as you just saw, our city's financial position is more solid than ever before. Our revenue forecast is on a positive long-term trajectory, as Stephanie explained. And because of how we invested the ARPA funds, you all have an incredible asset of 640 acres in our portfolio to support future growth and recreation opportunities, and more than 1.3 million in one-time funding to use at your discretion, which I would encourage you to use to bolster our reserves. From water rights and water reclamation, road improvements to endangered species habitat, we have made some tremendous accomplishments together, and it's been a privilege to serve as Yelm City Administrator these past 5 years. I want to take this opportunity to personally thank you all and to let you know that as Mayor Foster's term ends and a new administration takes office, this is an opportune time for me to take on a new professional challenge. I will be resigning at the end of the year to enable the new administration to chart their path forward and build on the great work that we've all accomplished together. On a personal note to each of you individually, Councilmember Blair, your roll up the sleeves, get her done attitude is inspiring. From patching asphalt and parking lots to leading cleanups along our state highway, there is no trench that you won't jump in to roll up your sleeves and get the work done. I appreciate you. Councilmember Smith, your passion and support for public safety and youth is unsurpassed on the council. I enjoyed working with you on the General Government Committee and look forward to the new heights you will help take the Youth Council when we can reconvene, hopefully soon in person. You are a valuable member of the council. Councilmember Wood, I don't know where to begin. You love an efficient meeting, as we saw tonight, and you can always be relied on to move our meetings along and get back to the important work that you do in the community. Most significantly, you are one of the most generous business owners who contributes so much for our many community events. Appreciate you and your wife for all that you do and all that you contribute to the community. Councilmember Kaminsky, your passion for beautifying our city is absolutely incredible. Although it may not be unanimous with the council, I think we all appreciate the hard work and effort that you put in. And you are the only council member, as you just heard, who utilized our budget development process to propose a new investment in the mid-biennium update that was just adopted. You are most reliable attendee at the Finance Committee meetings, and I'm so thankful for you, Terry, both personally and professionally. Councilmember DePino, your commitment to supporting our dedicated police officers is unwavering. It will be especially important as our team of officers navigate the new challenges of reforms from the state legislature, and the city council continues evaluating opportunities and available resources to hire officers to keep up with our projected growing population. Councilmember Crossman, I love how you hit the ground running and look forward to what you will accomplish with your experience as a successful small business owner, your willingness to seek to understand, and your pragmatic common sense approach to governing. Mayor Foster, you epitomize the definition of a servant leader. There are so many milestones achieved under your leadership that will benefit current and future generations of this incredible community. You're the real deal. You are thoughtful, pragmatic, and personable, and your approach has been integral to supporting the families in need, supporting local businesses, and making work fun. I'm going to miss your cowbell. My letter of resignation is not typical. I will share it with all of you, but it highlights the hard work and dedication of our team of employees and the importance of community partnerships. The employees are the backbone of this organization, and the many regional partnerships that we've forged and strengthened have been integral to the progress that we have all made together by working as a team. I thank you all. And as we move forward to the end of the year, I will continue supporting you all, mayor, council, and staff, and our incoming elected leaders in every way possible. You all have my undying gratitude as dedicated and passionate public servants. And lastly, as we head into the Christmas season, I cannot convey enough the importance of supporting our local businesses in Yelm and shopping local. This will conclude my last department update. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and all the best in the new year.
Thank you, Michael. I know each council member will have their own feelings to share. I will simply start by saying thank you in as large letters as I could print. As I was speaking with other mayors around the region recently, we all admit that there's that certain someone in your organization who's behind the curtain, who's making everything work. We're the regional faces, but those number ones are the regional workers. And that's been you all along. You've made me look really good, and you've helped our councils get incredible work done over the past 5 years together. Interesting that tomorrow actually marks your 5th year with the city of Yelm. Strong work, incredible challenges, well done. Your professionalism has been so above board, and on a personal level, thank you for making me better at the job that I've tried to do. Appreciate you. We will go on to council member reports, starting with council member Blair.
Well, it's December, so there's no meetings. So it looks like we got finance on Thursday. Michael, I'm not happy with you right now. You know what? You and I mean, and JW and I, we've had our disagreements, but with you, Mike, and this is before I was even on council, when I just moved here, decided to run the first time, and was even more so a nobody than I am now. I could call you at any time of the day and ask you questions, and you would answer. Or if you didn't answer, you were calling me back within 15 minutes. I've got mad respect for you, man. You have always been someone that if I had a question, you were there. I could speak to you 100% my normal self, uncensored. And with that, I do not accept your resignation. And we will talk later.
Thank you.
Councilmember Crossman.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael, for those words. I didn't get a chance to get to know you, so sorry, my speech will be short on that part. As far as meetings, I missed the fire authority meeting the other day, and they voted to meet in person in January. So that'll be good. That's still up in the air a little bit, but that may happen. And then just remind everybody I'm new, I'm learning, so I'm not very formal. I'll get there. Be patient, city employees and all. And that's all I've got for now. Have a Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Well, Josh, I still don't know everything. It takes a long time. So Michael, I did want to say thank you so much. And I agree with James. It's not accepted, but I do want to thank you because when I first came in, one thing that you said to me, and I won't forget this, is how I was being fed like with a fire hose. And I'm still being fed with a fire hose. It's like, it comes at you from all directions and there's so much to learn, but I really do appreciate everything. And I'm kind of in shock. So that's that. As far as meetings or things that have been happening, on December 2nd, I went to the Yelm Senior Center to do their paint night. They bring in a couple of facilitators that teach art at, I think it's Centralia College, and they teach you how to paint. And I don't know how to paint, but anyway, it's a fun time, and they do it once a month. So if you ever want to learn how to paint, you can go to the Senior Center. On the 3rd, I went to the tree lighting, which was amazing. It was nice to see all the families out there enjoying the festivities. On the 4th, I got to give a shout out to Tracy and Mr. Doug's and his wonderful wife, Denise. I hosted a Christmas party there, and they did an amazing job with everything. So thank you for that. Again, we need to support our local businesses. I think the General Government Committee was canceled. On Wednesday, I went to the Regional Housing Council meeting. I'm still learning a lot about that. Thank you again, JW, for that one. One of the things that I thought was interesting, the issues that they are having clearing Ensign Road with all the motorhomes. One of the problems they're running into now is there's no place to take these abandoned motorhomes. They're running out of room. They don't know where to take any of them. They did clear Deschutes Parkway, and they put 50 people into hotels. I did learn that. This Friday, I have steady, but I will actually be flying on a plane, not on a broom. I just had to throw that out there. And I know that I think Michael already put in a plug, but on the 18th, the Midday Lions is doing their toy drive in the movie. So please come out to that. That's all I got.
Thank you. Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hey, I'd like to thank Mike for the shout out. And of course, as you know, Mike, I consider you a good friend of mine at this point, and I feel lucky that the city has given the opportunity for you and I to get to know each other. And you're a stand-up guy and somebody who shoots from the hip and tells it how it is, and that's really appreciated by those of us trying to move forward in developing our community. I expect you and I will continue to be friends, and I look forward to us figuring out when we're going to get that opportunity to maybe head up to Alaska and throw some lines in and reel in some of those massive fish they have up there. But you will be missed, and I guarantee you wherever you land, I'll probably look at it as a possibility of where I might want to go, just because it's been a real pleasure working with you, my friend. I thank you very much, and I don't really have a report. I didn't go to any meetings. I attended the chamber luncheon today on a working level, and it heard some amazing voices out there. It was nice to hear that, especially with all that's going on in the world right now. To have it wasn't your traditional gathering of a choir, but it was definitely a group got together and put out some really beautiful sound. So I'm thankful for that, and that's my report.
Thank you. And we can't let the moment go by without saying thank you back, Tracy Wood, for your time served on council. This will be your last council meeting. You have been a stalwart member of this council for a long time. We really appreciate your voice and your commitment. It's been incredible. I've had more one-on-one time with Councilmember Wood than with any other council member before or after. He asks great questions, he demands answers, and he gets them because he goes looking for them, and he's prepared to have the conversations and discussions on council, which is the mark of a great council member. So thank you, Tracy. And yes, we will be seeing you because you and your wife are so active in our community, and thank you for everything that you do for us. Councilmember Kaminsky. Oh, sorry. Now I'm forgetting Joe. Councilmember DePinto.
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to echo everyone else's gratitude to Michael. He came in during a time when we were very, very much growing, and he was the city administrator during a lot of this change and responsible for a lot of the change and some of the professionalism that we've seen here improve for the city of Yelm. So thank you for your service to the city, Michael. Appreciate the work that you've done, and good luck in your future and whatever you decide to do. And also on that same note, wanted to thank Councilmember Wood and Mayor Foster for their service to our community. I know sometimes we disagree, and it's evident today. I mean, this is an interesting meeting. We had some disagreements and agreements, but I do appreciate both of you and all that you've both done for this city of Yelm. So thank you both, and Godspeed in both your future endeavors. Other than that, in preparation for January 1, I've been meeting with department heads, and I've met with all department heads now, learning what projects they're working on, what things they'd like to see change policy-wise, budget request-wise, and a lot of other things. So looking forward to working in first week of me taking office. I do plan to meet with every single employee, the 67 or so, or 64 perhaps right now, with trying to backfill a few positions. But I do plan to meet with every employee of the city of Yelm and get to know what their thoughts are and what we're doing, what they think we're doing good and what they think we're doing bad, and learn from them. Other than that, Merry Christmas. Have a Happy New Year, everybody.
You forgot something, Joe.
What's that?
What's happening on Sunday? Go Hawks.
Oh, I was waiting for the end of the meeting.
Oh, okay. All right.
Go Hawks.
Fair enough. Councilmember Kaminsky.
I went to the winter fair and I went to the chamber lunch, and the Yelm High School choir was just gorgeous. But I don't care about any about that because I'm kind of in shock and I'm feeling really raw and vulnerable, and I'm trying not to cry. But Michael, come back on the screen. I do not accept your resignation. You must not do that to us. You guys both, JW and Michael, just powerful, charismatic, amazing leaders. And I don't think that people in the outer world, based on what the newspaper says or the blogs say or all the riffraff, they don't get to work with you and know you and see your heart and your commitment to the city. And I'm just going to really miss you, and I feel lost, and I wish both of you wouldn't go. I wish we could keep you all, but I respect and admire you both so much. And I'm just sorry you're leaving. I'll just cry later.
My cell phone's not turning off, Terry. It's always open for you.
Okay. Well, but I might need your help. And Tracy, it's been an honor also working with you, my friend. It's going to be an interesting new time, and we'll make it through, but my heart is pulling at all of the people we worked with before. So just go about your life and have a good time and think about us in the past.
Absolutely. Thank you for those words, Terry. And Terry, tag, you're it. Senior council member.
Oh my God. That's why I'm afraid. It's James and I.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, thanks, folks. On December 1st, I attended my last RMSA board. December 2nd, I did 30, 60, 90 check-in with employees, with our human resources director. It was very insightful. December 3rd was my last Thurston Regional Planning Council meeting and Mayor's Forum. December 3rd, I attended our lighting ceremony and echo all of the positive comments from folks. It was really great. The December 5th, we had the menorah lighting and celebration. It was nice that the Chabad of Olympia came out, Rabbi Yosef and crew, and we helped them celebrate Hanukkah. December 9th was Government Day at Leadership Thurston County, an excellent program that I hope that the council supports going forward. Getting a member of our staff to go to that every other year or so is really helpful to that employee and spreads the message of Yelm. On December 11th was Christmas in the Park, of course, and to echo what Michael said, really well done considering the circumstances, and everybody had a great time. December 13th, I guess that was yesterday, I did attend the beginning of the Port of Olympia meeting to pay respects to both Commissioners McGregor and Zeta, who are both retiring. So we're going to have a brand new, basically, Port Commission, and I hope that they are as dedicated to the region and helpful to Yelm as their predecessors have been. And then I finished off the night with the executive seminar on emergency management that is chaired by our own Chief Stansel, doing incredible work to help our region, the Thurston County region, be ready to recover from major disasters when they come. And then lastly, if you'll indulge me for just a minute, please. When asked recently by the class of leadership Thurston County what made me want to be mayor in the first place, I kind of smiled a little bit and reflected on the journey, because really I never intended to be mayor. As a Marine in the 1970s, and then as a paramedic with fire departments for the next 34 years, it just sort of became part of my essence, I guess, to serve people. And I have to say that I was really fortunate to find a perfect life partner to share that journey with. My Nikki, she has supported me in all these roles for the past 37 years. And I'm so grateful to her for that. And then serving on the City of Yelm Planning Commission, then on City Council for years, finding balance with my career and our other obligations to our kids through their schools and our community through volunteer organizations like the Lions and Rotary. Nikki and the kids gave me feedback and good advice that always made my work easier. So thank you, family. And then the mayor's position opened up suddenly in 2016, and we decided to take on that challenge. I inherited a strong team of professionals, but did not have a city administrator for the first 5 months. I have to make that point. But those professionals were working miracles within a budget that was still recovering from the economic downturn. We were down 7 or 8 positions that we had to fill over the next few years. And over the next 5 years, we were fortunate in Yelm to grow our local economy as we grew in population and regional importance. We feel confident that the team is even stronger now and that our city is in good shape financially, ready to meet the challenges ahead. Key to that success will be a strong, diverse city council. You can help steer the city in the right direction with thoughtful discourse and strong staff support. Although I didn't intend to be mayor, I'm grateful for the opportunity to have served you, and I've learned so much and benefited from the experience and working hard at a job I enjoyed and served my community. Thank you for that opportunity. It's been a pleasure getting to know our employees and support them in the work they do to keep Yelm a safe, healthy, happy home for all. And yes, I did have to write that out so that I could say that without faltering. That brings us to the end of our business meeting. I'll announce now that we are going to go into an executive session. And for the people watching at home, the Open Public Meetings Act allows for City Council to have an executive session that remains confidential in order to discuss certain things that would be important to keep confidential for the time being, at least for now. They would then become action items perhaps later on. Tonight we have 2 topics that the council will be discussing. One is the upcoming negotiations with the Teamsters Union. And then the second subject is to receive and evaluate complaint brought against a public employee. What we'll do here is exit this meeting. We will put a notice up on this meeting that tells the attendees that we're in executive session and what time we approximate to be coming back. If we need more time because the discussion goes long, we will update that notice so people know when we're coming back. When we do come back into regular session, it will be simply for the purposes of adjourning that meeting. No action items are intended to come out of the executive session for tonight's meeting. So just wanted everybody to know that. We will now exit this meeting, and staff or council, you should have all received an email from Kathy Linnemeyer with a different link to join the executive session. please join me there in a few minutes and take a minute if you need to stretch it out. We've been going at this for 2.5 hours. Want you to be all healthy. So see you over there in just a little bit.